All right, here we go. Today, I'm thrilled to have Suzanne. She's an online community specialist and self-proclaimed community catalyst. She's joining us today, and Suzanne is known for establishing business owners create vibrant, engaged communities without the overwhelm. Such a crucial skill in today's digital landscape. With years of experience, including managing multiple customer communities and leading a team at the Ask Method company, Suzanne brings a wealth of insight to this conversation. From freelancing to homeschooling, from crafts to functional medicine, she's supported communities across diverse niches, building genuine connections and growth within each one. So grab your favorite tea. Suzanne loves a strong British blend. I got my shaken espresso, and get ready for an inspiring talk on how to cultivate a community that truly feels like home. All right, Suzanne, thank you so much for being here today. I want to dive first into telling us what inspired you to be a community catalyst and what does that mean to you?
Oh, thank you for having me, Elizabeth. I'm excited to be here. So, I think I've always been involved in leading, running communities. Obviously, I wasn't, when I first started doing that, it was offline. I don't even think the internet existed, but not in a way that we would recognize it now. Age. But I've always loved to kind of nurture and encourage people and to support people. Over here, signposting people to things, but I'm not sure if that's an American term or not. So it's kind of showing people where they can find resources and where they can get support, that sort of thing. And for 15 years in frontline healthcare here in the NHS in the UK, and I worked with complex disabilities, and a big part of my job was working with the community around each child. So a lot of that was supporting, encouraging resources or support services, whatever. And I think I had no idea that you could do that online. And a business coach that I'd started working with a few years ago kind of picked me out of her audience because she's working in the community, I suppose, and asked me if I'd like to help her run it. So I
I
was like,
love
oh,
that.
so I
So
can
in your
get
you were connecting or signposting resources for the people you worked with and in your personal life, and now you've been able to transition that into online communities.
that's right. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that. Cool. Probably why we get along so well, just because of that authenticity and the connections. That's one of our core values.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
see
definitely.
that. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk about community. What advice do you have? Businesses looking to create, everyone wants engagement. They want a strong community. Actually, let's start with something first. Conception of a community versus an audience. Can we start with that?
Yeah. So I think with social media platforms, lots of people, the go-to, obviously, sort of 5 years particularly, has been to create a Facebook group. And have a course, or it might be that your business wants to gather people together in one space. And then people have gone to Facebook groups as the sort of the default. I think the reality, particularly over the last year to 18 months, is that Facebook's visibility, it doesn't promote content. So Facebook are even, I would say, suppressed now.
I think it's because you have
So
paid play.
yeah, exactly, saying that they don't get a cut of. So that's the harsh business reality. And I think what a lot of people have find, or I would say about them, is that actually they've not got a community, they've got an audience. So they might be putting content out into the ether, they might be promoting stuff, but actually there's no member to member interaction. So it's the difference between, I call it a vertical and a horizontal model of community. So the vertical model is somebody is leading the community and they're connecting with the members and the members are connecting with them. Horizontal community is true community, where you've got member to member interaction and the founder or the leader of the community or the team that's involved is in and out of that, but the huge amount of the interaction is happening between the members.
No, that's great. I love that differentiation. I work with a lot of content strategies, and we build content around connecting with the audience. But what
Yeah.
you're talking about is a community, and people add communities as part of their business, but they don't really know where to start or how to create that engagement.
Yeah.
How can a business ensure that their communities are aligned strategically with their goals? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think a key part of it is knowing your why you want a community. So for some people, it's going to be as simple as actually they don't want an audience. That's what they want. That's what works for their business. That's totally fine. So if you want a community, it's understanding why. What are the goals for that? What is your business going to get out of that? But what are your members going to get out of that as well? Know your audience really, really well. So you need to understand what the challenges are, what their strengths are, what their difficulties are, what their pain points are, and then you're going to tailor your engagement around that. So if you don't know who is you're going to be coming into your group, it's really hard to promote an active and engaged group community, because you're not tailoring what you are creating to the people that are coming in. And then value is the other one. It's a huge part. People get overwhelmed very easily, and one of the biggest churn community is overwhelm. If there's too much content, too many resources, it's great, it's all free. But if you look at the statistics around people clicking through into that content and utilizing that content, it's too much. Actually, what people want, particularly coming out of the back of the last few years we've had, is connection. So something like a Facebook group is not giving them what they want. It's not promoting connection. It's giving you a location online where they can dip in and out, or you can give them stuff. But actually, it doesn't promote interaction. The big groups, yeah, tens, hundreds of thousands of people maybe. But on the online community, it's really to get good engagement in a Facebook.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right. I've seen a lot of Facebook groups where all the rage, and now they're really quiet. It's kind of like, why even do them anymore? Let's talk a little bit then about how you balance the strategy aligning with the creativity of creating conversations that people want to engage in. So how do you balance that? What's your approach that has worked well to create that engagement?
Yeah, so I think putting yourself in your members' shoes is always a great place to start. So have audience with your members, and think about, if you were, because a lot of people, their business is built out of something that they had. So when you were in your members' situation, what would you have wanted? What would you have engaged with? I think mix it up. So do content that's fun, polls, quizzes, go live in your community, do kind of face-to-face interaction. So obviously there's a difference between a level of access that somebody will get to you as a business owner. But at the same time, it's always good to have that. Generated content is fantastic for engagement. There's posting, one of the things that I love about Skool, the new community platform that I've kind of been using recently, you get access to more things with the more you're engaged. And actually user generated content rewarded within that platform. It's really exciting. So the more your members post, the more they comment, the more engage, not just likes, the more that they're actually actively engaging, then the more things they get access to and the more points they get. And some people, and
I love that you brought that up. Education has always been something that was so tricky to DIY or build yourself. And since you brought it up, we're just going to go there with Skool. I have my thoughts on it, but gamifying, if there hasn't been a way that I've seen done it this way, easy for anyone to come in and do that. So let's go there. And friends, what are you seeing in the community that businesses should be paying attention to? And how can that be used to grow their communities?
Sure. Yeah. So I think platform migration in 2025, I think there are not work for, and members just won't want to do it. But there's a lot of people assuming that about their communities, and I would urge them to dig deeper to check it out. Because I think one of the things that I've seen in the communities that I've helped clients to migrate already is that we've got people engaging who have been long-time members, return to the community. Now it's off Facebook, where we pre-assume, don't we, that people won't come off Facebook, because Facebook's easy, it's accessible, we're in the habit of opening it. People who probably offset the people who wouldn't engage on Facebook anyway. So you're kind of gaining a whole different set of members. So there's definitely, I think platforms are great. So, other options, Circle and my kind of things, is a big growth community area at the moment. I think micro communities, so it's not all about the huge tens of thousands of people in a community. Really interesting listening to a community guy called Calvin, who I was watching some of his training recently, and he was talking about how actually it's what we need to think about is only letting our communities grow to a certain size before we then set them, which is a really interesting, really countercultural to what's going on at the moment.
I love that though.
So because it enables you to maintain the level of nurture and connection with your members and your members with each other, obviously. His theory is that a community, so actually you're kind of getting ahead of the curve by doing it yourself and controlling it.
That's really, I like that. And it makes sense because it keeps authenticity, the connection that people really want to be seen, while still growing it into more people. So you're
Yeah.
still making an impact because you just started another community.
Exactly.
I love that. Now you mentioned something, you said that Skool, there's some work for. Can you give me who it may be for and who could consider you?
Yeah. So there could be an assumption that it might be a generational thing, but having seen the people that are on Skool, I think that's not at all the case. I've seen sort of 15-year-olds on Skool the day in a community who's sort of in his 70s.
Oh, wow.
I think Skool facilitates really well in the sense of it's really simple to use, but what it creates is actually really rich. So, my dad's in New Zealand, he doesn't like Facebook because it's too complicated and too busy. Where I think if there was a school community that was of his interest, like that piqued his interest, I could get him and he'd know how to use it, no problem. So I think it would be harder for communities. Yeah, it's a good question. It would be harder for communities that are much more, maybe more local driven. I'm not sure how that would work. But I mean, I think kind of for school thing, I think you'd need to try it. I will have to think. It's a really good question.
All right. So then what first steps should they're going to take your advice? What are the first steps they should take in starting to build a community?
Yeah. So I think clarify your purpose, be really clear on what your community is it for. Is it just to sell stuff to people? That's an audience, not a community. I think that's a really important to make. Have a vision about what you see your community becoming, what it's going to be for its members. Choose the platform that works for you. So as much as I'm a Skool enthusiast now, I think, explore what's out there. Somebody like me who, has been on a few of the different platforms and been in communities on those. So it doesn't necessarily mean that one that I recommend is going to be better. Do a deep dive you're looking for. Have some foundational content, have some really basic stuff that you want to have in there so that when it opens, you've got a bit of activity going on, and make sure that you onboard people really well. Really, really key part. Yeah. You're going to have people come in and go straight out again if they're not onboarded. So yeah, it's a really simple thing, but it's also a really easy thing to forget.
Yeah, you're right. It's really important. I saw was that within your first 14 days and maybe even down to 7, the retention of that person in your membership significantly declines if you do not nail that onboarding experience.
Yeah.
And it's more competitive now. Like the first, right away, they need to have a touch point and then really nice and warm in the first week. All right.
Yeah.
So they have to have a purpose, be very clear, some foundational content. Any other specific tools or that you'd recommend to be easier?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a systems expert or processes. Yeah, I would defer to your expertise, but I think say this, I like a Google Sheet. It's a new thing for me. But I think having somewhere that you can get information about your members. So whether you do that through software, whether you have a pickup database or an Airtable, I think just find out what works for you. You don't have to have any of the extra stuff. That will just make it simpler. And particularly if you have a bit of a growth spurt in your community, you're not having to do everything manually. I think that's the sort of thing. I think it depends on the platform as well. So, like with Skool, you've got your community, your courses, your content, your calendar, it's all in there. Your stats are all in there. Growth metrics are all in there. So it keeps it really simple. Useful having all of your new member question answers in a Google Sheet because you have them over there. So, yeah.
So at what point does a business need to bring in a community specialist like you? How do they know they need that?
Yeah, so I think it's different for different businesses, to be honest. So they want the community setting up. So they don't want to have to do it, or they just know that they want one. They understand the purpose and they run it. They're just going to pop in and out with their expertise. That's appropriate. And then I've had other business owners who've been like, oh, I wish I'd done this years ago, but now the time is right, or I've got the budget to bring somebody in to help me run it. I think it's another it's another one of those things where most of us would wait a little bit too long rather than doing it soon enough.
Which I see a lot of times because sometimes a business will start with something, works, so they don't fix it. And then it starts growing and it's not manageable anymore. So then you have to bring in a specialist to clean it up. Or it's usually either I like obviously the beginning, but again, people don't normally think about because they don't know that they need it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to start a community online, they can go straight to you. If they want to move a community from one platform to the other, they probably need to bring in a specialist. And
Yeah.
it's growing help, or maybe they're losing connection with the people in the community.
Yeah.
They're not able to have enough conversations. I think another part that you bring in really well is tying the content into the community. So let's chat a little bit about that. How do you plan out what to bring? I mean, about fun polls and things like that, but how do we
Yeah.
bring that business strategy to the goals, to the conversation? How do we connect the solutions to?
Yeah, so I think again, it's coming back to empathy with your members. So, a lot of the thing, it's content strategy for a community. And I think a lot of us fall into this trap I have with Facebook groups. So it's not being seen, so you need to post more often to boost the algorithm. And that's flooding your group with posts that nobody's really, it's kind of the echo chamber thing that you just kind of shouted into the void. So I think having some element of live interaction is really important. I think that always benefits, say, oh, we're zoomed out, but I don't think that's true. I think we're zoomed out. We're bored of Zooms that aren't relevant, we're unnecessary. We're not bored of interacting and connecting with people.
Right.
So I think, stuff where you can either have a Zoom call or where you go live in a group and you've got people in the chat, more like webinar style. Content that's led and driven by your community. So have member spotlights, member features, bring one of your members on to co-host a Q&A. It promotes a sense of ownership from the back, horizontal community that it's facilitating. So it's not all driven by the community owner or the community manager. Trainings, bring in your members. So one of our clients is really good at that. She really knows what people's zone of genius is, and she brings them into her community to give relevant trainings to her members. And that's a really thing to see and to experience.
I love that,
because everybody can see themselves potentially doing that, and that's really exciting, I think.
That's awesome. Well, lots of great insights. Tell us a little bit. I know you just launched your own community in Skool. Can you tell me a little bit? This is your pitch time. Tell me a little bit about that community itself, what it's about, what your vision is for that community, and then how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so my community in Skool is called the Community Foundry. And it's a free community at the moment. It's for community founders who want to build vibrant community for their businesses, but they don't want to feel overwhelmed, drained, or like they're losing time in a void somewhere. So I really love working with people who either are not confident in creating and running a community, or who know that somebody else could actually do it more efficiently than they can. Yeah, I really enjoy that. That's free community at the moment. It's really easy to find. It's skool.com/the community foundry.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's started this week, so it's growing slowly, which is nice.
I'm excited. There's so much insight, so much knowledge. You won me over when I saw your strat for this is genius. So you definitely have a lot of insights and value to bring. I trust you completely, because at the heart of it, you want to do what's right for it's not about the money. Yeah. That's what I connect with. So I know that the communities you help manage, they're real, connected, just about the connections, because especially since this is how things are adapting. We are trying to stay digitally connected and human side to it. So I appreciate that in the communities I've watched. And I like to be in the Community Foundry and kind of watch what's going on, even if I don't have one myself, right now. I don't know. That's not the business plan, but we'll see. Awesome. So what is the best way to reach you or connect with you?
So my Instagram and community specialist, bit of a mouthful, I apologize, but you'll find me on there. That's where I'm most kind of engaging, I suppose. Or come to some and find my community on there, and welcome to join. Yeah, it's for anybody who's interested in either creating or running, or has experience of an online community. It's not for my relatives, so I don't really advertise it on Facebook. Nobody else is welcome. Fair
enough. I think that's pretty good. So you're not getting just acknowledging.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Suzanne, it has been awesome having you today on on the series of lefties. Thank you so much. And I am excited to connect with you. So thank you
for having me. It's great.